Welcome to the Lady NightHawk show. And before we get started tonight, I want to say happy holidays to everybody. This year went by so fast. And I mean, Christmas is right here, and by the time you see this, we'll be going into New Year's, okay? So I want to wish you Happy New Year's. I have a guest here that you know him already, and he hadn't been here for a minute, but I'm glad that he's here with us tonight to wish you a happy holidays and Happy New Year. How about that?
Yeah, works for me. How you doing? I'm Dave. Been here several times. Jack of all trades, primarily insurance, but we talk about all kinds of things on this show. So hopefully we'll have a good conversation tonight.
Yeah, because you picked up a good conversation before we got started, because I know that in some states, right, they don't use the regular jail system, but they have private owners that have prisons, and they make a percentage on how many prisoners that they keep in them. And, you know, sometimes the people that go in there are not really hardcore criminals, but they got hardcore sentences. So did I say that right? I mean, was that kind of what you were talking about?
So what we were talking about, I mean, it's like, it's like a rabbit hole. It's a lot of information. What we were talking about was some prisoners in Alabama were suing basically Alabama prison system because essentially it's like legalized slavery. What Alabama will do is they will basically lease out their prisoners to all kinds of different businesses, not just like if you live in the South. I'm from the South, so if you live in the South, the state I'm from, Arkansas, everybody works if you're in prison, but your type of work is going to be, you'll be in the middle of the highway planning stuff or cleaning up stuff.
And that's where it is here,
things that improve like the city or the state, period, because they'll take them all over the place. Alabama will lease their people out to fast food places like Burger King or KFC or Slaughterhouse, or the prisoner will be paid $2 per day. The prison gets 40% or 50% of whatever that daily wage would be. So Alabama is able to make $450 million per year from leasing out their prisoners. And this isn't something that's voluntary. This is something they have to do. The prisoners have to go. If they don't feel well, they're sick, sorry, gotta go, get up, go get our 50%, our 40%. But everything, when I say legalized slavery, it'll all go back to the Emancipation Proclamation. Emancipation Proclamation, when slaves got freed, well, let's take it to the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment just basically made slavery illegal. It said you can't keep somebody essentially prisoner and make them work for free. You can't do X, Y, Z, all the stuff that's slavery. You can't do that, and then they put a big unless they're prisoners. So what happened once slavery ended, they started making up all of these laws and locking black people up for various different reasons and basically put them in jail. And those jails would lease those prisoners out to mines, lease them out to plantations, and they just kept it going. So if you look at the prison system today, what you were talking about were privately owned prisons. With privately owned prisons, they get paid whether it's people in the bed or not. So if they got 5,000 beds, they're getting a certain amount per day. For each bed. So if there's a prisoner in the bed or there's a prisoner not in the bed, they're getting that money. The prisons are being paid money to house them, to feed them, and to take care of their medical needs. So prisons that are run for profit, it's for profit. So if they can cut money on food, they will. You'll get subpar food. If they can cut money on medical care, meaning you're gonna need some holes in your body that didn't come with your body when you were born in order to see a doctor or to get medical attention. Most times you'll end up, whatever is wrong with you, you're gonna get an aspirin and that's it, send you back to your cell. What happens in the justice system in America today is, if I commit a crime, no matter what crime I committed, I'm gonna get overcharged. Meaning, I may have punched you in the face, but I'm gonna get charged with assault, I'm gonna get charged with resisting arrest, I'm gonna get like 5, 6 different charges. And what's gonna happen is, if I don't have the money to get a lawyer, a real lawyer, who's going to actually fight my case and try and get me off, I'm going to end up with the public defender. The public defender works for the state. The state is who's prosecuting me. The public defender is overworked. All he's going to do all day, he's not fighting your case. Not unless you're going to have to fight him to make him fight your case. He's going to try and talk you into a plea, whether you did it or not. He doesn't care. This is the easiest way to get this over with. Sometimes with a plea, you don't have to do jail time, but you end up with that on your record. Or if you do have to do jail time, it just keeps the easiest way to slow down or stop. If you wanted to bring the justice system to a grinding halt, everybody stop taking pleas. Everybody go to court. Everybody fight your case and go to court. You have to. You're guaranteed the right of a speedy trial, so they got to try you within a certain amount of time. But if everybody stopped taking pleas and everybody went to court and fought their case, the criminal justice system will slow down to a grinding halt, because they just can't try all of those cases. They don't have all of that. Essentially, you get charged with something, if you don't have money, you're going to cop a plea. If you cop a plea, it depends on what the crime is. You're going to go to jail. If you go to jail, you're going to do something while you're in that jail. It depends on what state you're in. Most states, if you don't have like a GED, they're going to make you get a GED. You're going to work. You're going to work in the prison. If the prison has an outside system where they source out prisoners to businesses or various different things. In some states, the prison will, they'll bid on contracts for construction. So it could be to clear some land of trees. Normally you would have construction companies come out and bid. Well, if the prison is into that, I got slaves. I mean, I'm paying them $2 a day. So I can bid 20% lower than you. My labor is gonna be out there as long as I need them out there, and they're gonna get the job done, and it'll be satisfaction. But you can see where you want as many prisons as you can, because you can make as much money as you can by leasing them out. If I'm a prison for profit and I lease people out, I'm getting paid for you to stay here, and then I'm getting paid again from a business that I'm leasing you out to. And essentially, it's kind of like slavery. I mean, slaves ain't get paid anything, but you got people doing labor all day for $2. I mean, you couldn't do that outside of a prison, but that's legal. A prison should be for rehabilitation. Whatever that person's issue is, you work at making that person better. If that person's a drug addict, you send them to drug counseling. You get them off of drugs. You show them a different way. You show them how to do something else. So when they get out, a lot of times people end up with drugs for various different reasons, but when they get out, they don't have anything that's gonna make them better. You don't have a trade. You don't have a job. So you're just a prisoner. And it's not, you can't find housing, you can't find a job. The only thing that's gonna be less for you to do is to commit crime again and end back up in jail. It's a vicious cycle.
Well, I thought that our prison system here in this area, this metropolitan area, that was, they had made many improvements where you do have prisoners that are getting educations and PhDs and stuff, and they actually are working towards a trade.
In a lot of states, they cut out the college programs. You can get a GED, you no longer can get a college degree in a lot of states. If you take, the prison system in America, if you send a nonviolent offender into a prison in America, when they come out, they're violent.
They've been educated.
Not educated, they're violent because they had to survive in it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They've been educated toward the prison system, not for their knowledge, but they've been educated to survive inside a prison system.
You essentially have made a better criminal, and if he was not violent, he is violent now. Mm-hmm. To me, it is no difference in being in prison and being in war. If you take a soldier that's at war, if I'm stationed in Afghanistan and there's a war going on, at any moment or any time, it can go down. Somebody can attack us. Somebody could try and kill me. I may have to kill someone. Now, if I do 2 tours, that means I live 2 years like that. 2 years every day I wake up. I could have to kill somebody, or somebody might try and kill me. Mm-hmm. And I got to be ready at all times. And if it goes down, I can't hesitate. I have to do what I have to do. It is the exact same way in prison. Somebody could try and kill me any day. I have to live like this. Now I've lived like this for 5 years or 10 years, and then you just drop me back off in society and say, be good. I didn't educate you. I didn't give you any skills. I didn't do anything to make you a better person or more productive citizen. Essentially, I hooked you up with criminals who probably did something that was a little bit more advanced than what you were doing. If you made friends, you made contacts, you networked. If you were in prison, you probably had to do some violent stuff to survive. I'm not saying everybody that goes to prison doesn't do everybody goes to prison does something violent, but chances are you either had to do something violent to somebody else or somebody committed some form of violence against you. It's not going to make you a better person. Now, if you take prisons in other countries, I looked at the prison system in Norway. You have to do something in order to improve yourself, pretty much in order to get out. You definitely are going to do that every day. So if you don't have a high school degree, you're getting a high school degree. After you get the high school degree, you either are going to do some university work or you're going to learn a trade. You're going to learn something. And that trade could be anything. It could be plumbing. It could be construction. It could be being a chef, IT, anything where when I get out, I'll be able to get a job.
That you're a productive citizen.
I'll be able to get a job.
And I thought that that's what our prison system had become across the country. So, I mean, so where is this, if I wanted to look that up, where would I go?
If you want to look what up?
To find out that the prison systems in Alabama are doing.
And you can just Google it. I mean, Google Alabama prison system and then put $450 million behind it, and a whole bunch of articles will pop up.
Get out.
This isn't like, this not something I'm making up. This ain't.
No, I'm not saying you make it up. I'm just saying
like,
that. But if I wanted to look at this, because I would think that it is a good topic for people to become aware of, because I thought the judicial system across the country was, I'm not talking about little towns, I'm just talking about, big cities that have judicial. I thought that they had changed their system, whereas they wanted to rehabilitate people so that they are productive citizens when they come out and they can get a job. And some of them have become attorneys themselves, you know what I mean, while they were in the system. And I just thought that we had a better system than, like you said, what we had when we were in slavery. Now, I have heard, not recently, but, about the for-profit jail systems that they have.
The for-profit prisons are on the way out. That's an exiting thing. That'll be a thing of the past soon. In some states, they've already been kicked out. I know Mississippi, no private prisons in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And it's just because of things they did to prisoners. Once investigations start and stuff starts coming out, Mississippi was like, nah. And Mississippi, one of the poorest states, if not the poorest state in the nation. Mm-hmm. Private prisons would do is come into a state, and they'll find a city that may have had some form of industry, most likely factory work, where pretty much everybody in that little town worked for the factory in some capacity or made money from a byproduct of the factory. And the factory closes down. That factory closes down. Now this town is practically dead. Mm-hmm. A lot of people gonna leave, but a lot of people gonna stay. Well, I come here, I build a prison, and it's a private prison. We have money, so build a prison. You know exactly how much that's gonna cost. There's no different between them and building a prison and somebody like Chick-fil-A building a Chick-fil-A. They know exactly how much it costs. I know exactly how much space I need. I know exactly how many employees I need to run it. I know all of this stuff. So they'll build a prison somewhere. It's in a dead town. They got nothing else to do. Those are going to be all of my employees. I don't have to really go all out for them because this is a dying, dead town. I'm bringing the only form of life here. So they're going to be with it. They don't want the prison to close, no matter how bad it is and how bad the people are being treated on the inside. This is the new life's blood of the town. So the town's not going to make any waves because you've brought industry back to us. You brought jobs back to us, some form of stability, something for us and our kids. So you're not going to get any waves there. You're not going to get any waves from lawmakers on prisons and how prisoners are being treated. When do you ever see anything on the news saying anything about how prisoners are being treated? The only time you hear something on the news about prisoners is when some dude who's been in jail on death row for 25 years and DNA comes out and says he didn't do it. That's when you hear about prisoners. But you don't, I mean, prisoners get stabbed in prison every day. Prisoners die in prison every day. How often do you see that on the news? 3 prisoners were stabbed at the prison. You don't see that on the news. Nobody cares. It's prisoners.
Well, if I remember a long time ago in the District of Columbia, district jail, that they did protest about the conditions over there. And the mayor at the time, they did put an investigation in place, and they found out that some things were going on that were not. And they were supposed to revamp that, and they moved some of them from DC to like Jessup, to give them more space and more room because the jails were consistently being overcrowded. And they weren't moving people out. They were moving more people in than they were moving out. And then they made some changes that were supposed to be for the better, I thought.
This is what happens with, if you live or reside, commit a crime and get convicted in the District of Columbia, this is what happens. The District of Columbia is not a state. So there's no prison for the District of Columbia. If you commit a crime and you get convicted, you're going to federal prison. They will send you to any federal prison within the nation, not close to, any federal prison in the nation. If you look at the federal prison system, guys from DC are basically, I don't want to say they run the federal prison system, but they're very deep. I read a prison book maybe like 5-10 years ago, and they made mention of one of the federal prison gangs and this is the name they used in the book at the time, DC Blacks. It's essentially black dudes from DC. If you end up in a federal prison and you from DC, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. If you can describe where you lived in DC, you'll probably be okay. Because the system is flooded. Every criminal who commits a crime in DC ends up in a federal prison. And there are a lot of federal prisons in the country, but there are DC guys in every federal prison within the country.
So what's down in Jessup?
That's a Maryland prison.
Well, I mean, but they were sending people from DC. I think when they were doing that cleanup, I thought they were sending
they might have been trying to separate, but I mean, they do things for various different reasons, but at one point, if you committed a crime in DC, this probably would have been like 70s back, they sent you to a prison in Virginia. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a prison in Virginia, wasn't far away. Your family could come visit you. I mean, if you go to prison, I mean, you're in prison, but the possibility of being able to see your family could give you some hope of getting out of prison. If you're in DC and you commit a crime, you could end up in a prison in Colorado. Your family ain't coming to see you.
Oh, because I thought that they had to almost make sure that you were in a institution where it was close so your family could get to come to see you. Even if you had to go up to Pennsylvania, it's still within driving distance.
I got a guy who I've been friends with since I moved to DC. So I don't want to say since I moved to DC. I've been in DC probably like almost 25 years, but I've probably known him like 18. He was a manager and I got a part-time job at a place and we ended up being friends and we stayed in contact. He's got more kids than I do, but his son was born 2 days before my son was born. We cool. He committed a crime and he got a sentence. His sentence was maybe like 5 to 7 years, but he's been in Mississippi, he's been in Georgia, he's been in North Carolina. Currently, I think he's in Texas. Just keep moving him around. Just moving from one spot to the next spot, to the next spot, to the next spot. I mean, during this time, his wife died. Didn't get to go to that funeral. He was like in Texas, so it wasn't like they were gonna fly him back to DC to go to his wife's funeral.
Yeah, that's awful.
I mean, that's the system. And when you take somebody who isn't violent and you treat them like that and they live a certain condition, I mean, it's a very thin line. A lot of people think they couldn't do things. Oh, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. Get pushed to it. I mean, you can take little things. Typically, I'm very even keeled. It's gonna take a lot to get me upset. And if I get upset, more than likely, I'm not gonna attack you physically. I might attack you verbally. I'm gonna talk about you. I'm gonna say stuff. I'm gonna go places. I'm gonna mess with you. If you wanted instant violence from me, let me catch you messing with my son. Let me catch you doing something to my son. I don't even want an explanation. I'm just gonna be violent. And whatever happened, happened. Things like that can happen. Police show up. You end up in jail. You end up charged. What you were doing to you and most people would be justifiable, but you could catch an assault charge. And if you get charged, you're gonna get overcharged. That's what they do. They hit you with like 5, 6 charges. So you cop a plea to 1, so they'll drop 4 of them. That one that you cop a plea to, you may or may not do jail time, depending upon how violent it was, depending upon if it was your first offense, depending upon a lot of different factors. But you in the system now. And you basically, once you end up in the system, it's a lot of stuff. You can't get out and get a student loan to go to school, no matter how smart you are, no matter what your scores were, no matter what you went to prison for. You're a prisoner. At some places, you can't live. You can't live in certain apartment complexes if you have a record. The apartment complex that I live in now, we had to move from one apartment to another apartment because it's in the same complex, but there was a termite issue, a serious termite issue. It just wasn't safe for us to stay in there, so they had to put us in a different apartment. At the time that we moved in, which, we've been over there 10, 12 years or something like that, but at the time that we moved in, I didn't go on the lease. It was just my wife on the lease. Well, now they knew that I was there. They made me fill out a whole bunch of stuff. Well, all they really wanted to do was see if I had a record or not. And they don't want people with records living over there.
I was telling somebody the other day about, because I work with a church, I was working with this church group prior to COVID. We would help the families out, the church would help the families out and, take them food, take them places and doing different things for them. And one weekend, I had 2 people that lived in the same area, but one lived down the street in an apartment complex, and the other one lived up the street. There was a gated community, okay? And they're 2 different, they're like night and day. When we dropped her off in the gated community, we were gonna help her take her groceries in. And she said, no, you can't come in because they have a sign-in sheet for every complex. If I haven't put you on the list, they haven't investigated you, because anybody's family that has been to prison can't come visit you. I said, what? She said, no, if they have a nice development. It's over there in Southeast. But she said, no, you have to turn in a name. They have to fill out these papers, and they have to make sure that the person doesn't have a record. And if you have, I don't care if it's your sister, your brother, your father, your mother, it don't matter. If they got a record, they can't come see you in that apartment complex. And I thought she was kidding, but you telling me that that's the truth.
That's the truth.
Get out.
That's the truth. So imagine if you've done 10 years and you didn't actually commit the crime, but you had to do that time because you copped a plea, because you were looking at 70 years and they told you cop this plea, do 10 and you'll get out. You get out of prison, I can't get a job. I can't get educated. I can't live most places. I can't get most forms of assistance from the government just because, in some places, I can't even vote. What else do I have left? What are you pushing me towards? You pushing me towards recidivism. You committing another crime because I need to eat. I need to live somewhere. I need to, what if I have kids? It's a lot of stuff to factor in.
And she told us that basically the only thing that we could do was that put this stuff at the gate
and wait.
And then she'd go get her friend, and her friend that stays with her could come in and pick it up. I heard a long time ago too about another housing development that was years ago that basically it was the same way, but it was for senior citizens, and the senior citizens that was in this housing development for them, they couldn't have family members to come visit them in DC if they had any kind of law issues and stuff. So I was really surprised when, that was years ago. For senior citizens, I can kind of understand them trying to make sure that they're safe. But this young girl, let's say prior to COVID, I was very surprised that one of them, they belong to the same program, you know, live down the street, not a gated community. You know, she has issues with the heat, the plumbing, all those kinds of things. The girl that lived down the street, but the one that lived up the street in the gated community, Christine. I mean, and I'm not trying to figure out. So,
That's done
who
by design.
decides that who lives where?
It's done by design. I mean, black people have been 12, 13% of the population for like the last 30 years. We not getting no bigger. We a little bit smaller, maybe, depending upon how you look at it. If our population is not growing, why do we represent like 50% of the prison population? You think we commit 50% of the crimes? Or do you think that the police are in black neighborhoods primarily looking for something to do? I mean, somebody to get. I mean, when I'm in white neighborhoods, I don't see the type of stuff I see in black neighborhoods. I don't see 50 speed cameras every other block. When I'm in Georgetown, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see all the speed cameras. I see a cop or two, but I don't see cops just posted up on the block waiting on something to happen. I don't see that. I don't hardly see traffic stops in Georgetown. I definitely don't see anybody stopped and asked for ID. Oh, where you going? What you doing? I don't see that in Georgetown. But I mean, let's look at this. Black people don't own any boats. We don't own any plantations. We don't own any land in Colombia where they grow coca leaves and process and make cocaine. We don't own any planes or boats to bring it over here. But we don't have enough money to buy all the cocaine that comes here. And when we buy cocaine, and when we bought cocaine, it was the cheap version, crack. White people use a lot of drugs. There is a tremendous opiate problem in America. That's primarily Caucasian people. There's some black people in the opiates, but that's primarily a Caucasian thing. I don't see police in primarily Caucasian communities stopping people to see if they got opiates on.
Now, hold on. When on the news, when these shootings and things go on, you hear about them being concerned because there's not enough police that are over in Southeast, and you're saying the exact opposite from what the news when they have them sitting up in front of those cameras and things and saying that, you know, all those shootings are happening and the people are complaining because they're saying that they don't have enough police over there, and you're saying that's not true because they got more cameras. But anyway, that's been an interesting topic. Y'all need to look it up because I'm going to go home and look it up, okay? But I wish you happy holidays. You be safe. Thank you, Dave. And we're going to wave goodbye on this side and tell everybody good night. And I'm definitely going to do some research on that topic because I thought things were a lot different. So with that, let's keep our prayers out there that things will change for all of us, okay? And that everybody has a very wonderful, happy holiday and a happy new year, okay? And Dave, I'm so glad to hear you because you always got an interesting topic for us, okay? Thank you. That was interesting. It was an education all by itself, okay? Yes. So good night, guys.
Keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. They're my savior. My name is Lola Silvestri. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.